Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And once again, welcome to the back of the range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 235. Well, it's the last episode of the year, 235, not episode 250. Fell a little short of making it to my goal of 250 episodes that I set for myself on New Year's Eve last year. But while I may have fallen a little bit short in getting to the 250 episode milestone, 2021 was, without a doubt, the breakout year for the back of the range. This is the 60th episode released this year. Now, you know I say it all the time, but every episode is available in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Or you can go check out the website, thebackoftherange.com. Some of the guests that have joined me for a conversation this year, just to name a few, how about Bob Ford, former head pro at Oakmont and Seminole? Bruce McGill, the actor that played Walter Hagen in The Legend of Bagger Vance? How about Paul Simpson, the amateur legend from North Carolina that's played in 70 USGA championships? Got Amelia Miliaccio and Rachel Keene from the Curtis Cup team. Ina Kim Shad, former U.S. Women's Mid-Amateur champion. And yes, of course, Stuart Hagestad was a guest again this year during the Seminole sessions previewing the Walker Cup matches. And then he goes on to win the U.S. Mid-Am. Coincidence? Nope, that's called back of the range mojo. That's what that is. Now, 2021 was also the year that I started providing more on-site content at amateur and collegiate golf championships. That's really caused the rapid growth and reach of the back of the range within the world of amateur golf. Many of you have said to me throughout the year, man, you're always on the road. Man, you're everywhere. Well, I actually went back and looked it up. In 2021, I was at 19 golf tournaments. There are many people and organizations to thank for allowing me to have unrestricted access to the best players in the game during these prestigious events. The USGA, the Western Golf Association, the Jones Cup and Sea Island, Merritt Oak Golf Club, the NCAA, the SEC, Palmetto Amateur, Shoal Creek, Seminole Golf Club. Those are just a handful of the organizations and the people within those organizations that have allowed me to do what I've done this year. I got to also thank all the players and the parents and the friends and the coaches that have shared their time and stories with me throughout the year, so I'm able to pass them along to you, the listener. You don't just get this level of access because you're tall and good looking. I've been able to share these stories and point a camera at the best players in the world all year long, and it's thanks to the welcoming atmosphere that I've been fortunate enough to be a part of. And I don't take this opportunity and responsibility lightly. Finally, and most importantly, thank you to everyone that listens to the back of the range. For everyone, and there were more and more of you this year that stopped me at a tournament and say, hey, aren't you the back of the range guy? That never gets old, and it never will. I even had 2 people ask to take selfies with me at the Western Amateur. Was it a prank? Were they bribed to do it by some drunken buddies? I don't care. It was awesome. But seriously, getting recognized for what the back of the range has become in just 4 short years is incredible, and it really does mean the world to me. So before we get to the last episode of 2021, you might be thinking what lies ahead for 2022. Well, I'm going to get to 250 episodes. First things first. That's going to be done shortly. Think I can do another 60 in 2022? Absolutely. What about covering 19 tournaments? Well, I think we're going to bump that up to about 25 tournaments in 2022. I'm going to be at more tournaments, more women's events, more junior events, mid-am events, yeah. Senior events, most likely. I'm going to be anywhere and everywhere, so make sure that you're following on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find all those links at thebackoftherange.com. My final guest of 2021 is Will Zalatoris. This is his 3rd appearance at the back of the range. We always have a good conversation, but I haven't had the chance to speak with him in quite some time. You see, we were both a little busy this year. You know what I was up to, and you probably were also following Will's progression as well. Now, you know that Will didn't just come out of nowhere to finish second at the Masters this year because you listened to this podcast. But during this episode, we spoke about the chain of events at the beginning of the year that had him shooting up the official world golf rankings to get himself into the Masters field. We also spoke about how he has balanced the newfound fame and opportunities that have come his way. Now, Will was first a guest on the Back of the Range on episode 97 back in October of 2019. This was right after the Korn Ferry Tour Finals. His world golf ranking was 610. Now it's 33. It's the Back of the Range mojo, right? You know it's true. I hope you all have a great new year. Stay healthy, keep chasing the little white ball around, and listening to the Back of the Range Golf podcast. Again, thank you all for your support. Enjoy this final episode of 2021. Will?
Hi, Ben. Thank you for having me again.
Well, we squeezed you in. We figured out a way to do it. And because of odd scheduling, neither one of us right now is at home. You're out in California, going to take some time off, do a little wine tasting. And I'm over in Georgia. I'm in Sea Island. I'm getting ready to cover the Jones Cup Junior Invitational. And because I'm a dork with all things amateur golf, let's start off. Please tell me about the 2015 Jones Cup Invitational that you played in. A nice solid T14. What do you remember about that week?
Yeah, nice solid T14, I think, with like 3 triples.
I didn't get that deep. I didn't get that deep into it. I'm trying to set you up here. That's a nice T20. Why we got to go dark on me? Come on now.
Yeah, I think, what was it, 73, 77, 73 maybe?
All right, well, that's freaky. That's exactly right. All right, now that's settled. Are you, 73, 70. How do you remember something like that? What's wrong with you?
I don't know. I do have a pretty good golf memory, which is a blessing and a curse. But I just remember that I had taken, I think we played the Walker Cup practice squad for 2015. So I guess it was the end of 2014. But for the 2015 team, we were over at Frederica, and I literally did not really touch a golf club until I came back to Ocean Forest, which, you know, everyone always talks about how it's just such a brutal golf course. All the college kids will always kind of do the same thing where it's like, hey, you know, we just had finals. Let's try to, you know, we had a long fall season. We've got a long spring season coming up. Let's try to get some rest. And, you know, all the top guys, you know, what do? Well, let's just go play our first tournament to start off our calendar year in 40 degrees, blowing 30.
Yes.
Hazards on both sides, you know, but then there's years where it doesn't blow, and then all of a sudden you see guys put up some low numbers. But I love that tournament. I mean, it's you've got to, I mean, my goodness, what is it, like 15, I think I maybe played in like probably 6 over or something just awful, just because I didn't sniff it in the fairway once. But that's a good event. I mean, I always tell guys, you know, play as much as you can. So that was always the one that I like starting off at.
Yeah, this year actually, I keep thinking it's already 22, but it's only 2021 still. But yeah, this year in February, that was my first time there, and everyone was talking about the the Jones Cup weather, and I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like 65. It's not blowing. It's sunny. It's gorgeous. They're like, just wait. I'm like, I still didn't get it. And then I think it was the second day. It just was 45, like you said, 45, 50, and blowing and rainy and shitty, and just I was like, this does suck. Fun fact, Davis Riley, T5 that week, pretty solid. And then I couldn't help but notice that T45 was Bryson DeChambeau and Chase Koepka, which, I mean, you never see those two names, Koepka and DeChambeau, together in a sentence ever. So, you know, that was an interesting week. Now, you just now enjoyed a nice little trip to Naples. You came down to Florida, Naples, Florida. You got to play the QB shootout as a last-minute replacement, and your partner was Sean O'Hare. Did you really tell him that you played him in the PGA Tour video game when you were a kid? You didn't really do that, did you?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, you know, as very typical of me, just because I've got a blabbermouth, because we had spent a good amount of time together just in like literally player dining over the last like 2 or 3 years. We've never played a round of golf together.
Oh,
so
really?
the only time that we've ever really spent time with each other is just, player dining or hitting balls on the range or whatever. And, so of course, as always, I, butter up my partner. I mean, he's striping it on the, I guess it was a Thursday Pro-Am, and, just telling him how good he's playing and blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, after a couple of days, we start making fun of each other. And, and I may or may not have mentioned that in 2000, I think I was Tiger, because they did this like thing. It shows you this, we're all of a sudden my memory is going to end up being a thing after this episode. But
Okay.
they did this thing where you basically had a head-to-head match with a creative character against one of the pros, and it went all the way to like Gary Player and Jack Nicklaus and all the legends of the game. And I used Sean for part of it because he was such a good ball striker.
Perfect. Now, was that I've never been to that tournament, but it always seemed to me that it was kind of like a hit and giggle. I mean, I know there's money involved, but you really don't pick up any ranking points. It's not affecting anything as far as that goes. And you're in Naples.
No,
You're in Naples. It's the beach. You're staying at the Ritz-Carlton. I mean, is it the same juice? I mean, it's not gonna be the same juice as a major, but do you get the juices flowing a little bit, or is it still just kind of vacation golf?
I think it's a mixed bag. I think on Sunday when you're playing your own ball and anything can happen, I think if you get any of us in contention, you love it. But we've got dinners every week with sponsors, and I'm walking down 9th fairway the last day, and a few people ask for pictures, and I just go over to the side of the ropes and take pictures with them. I mean, you'll never see me do anything like that in a regular event. A couple guys were trying to see if we could have some cocktails out there, while we were playing, and they're like, we are on TV, let's behave ourselves, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they killed it. I mean, that event's a lot of fun. I think next year it's actually around, the dates are kind of roughly around when I'm going to end up getting married. So, but in the future, that's one that's always going to be circled on there. And hopefully down the road, I can maybe get my former roommate as my partner. So
see, now there you go. Yeah. You and Davis.
Well, he's your brand ambassador, by the way. If you took his Back to the Range podcast hat away from him, I don't know what he'd do with himself.
I am actually going to put him on a full endorsement deal next year. We're gonna get something set up. I'm not sure if I can interest you in anything. I know times are tough, and finding shirts and hats to wear is probably your big concern right now. But yeah, I need to get him upgraded because that was one of the funnier parts of 2020, seeing him on the putting green at Merido, like 30 minutes after you mentioned it to me. You're like, Riley wears your damn hat everywhere, it looks like shit. And then like 20 minutes later, there he is. And you're right, that hat literally looked like he cleaned out a garbage disposal with it. It was disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, sweat stained. I mean, just smells like motor oil. I mean, it's just awful.
Well, I mean, do you think it's wise to get him all new stuff? Do you think that's going to be the thing to get him up to the PGA Tour, or do you think you let him ride with that, and then once he gets there, you refresh them? What do you think's the best way to go?
I mean, the one thing I will say is if he's got those hats smelling like that and looking like that, it means he's working his tail off. So
see, I'm kind of with you. Maybe I'll just let him know that there's stuff waiting for him at the end of the rainbow. I mean, yes, the PGA Tour card is up there, but really just the fresh Back of the Range hats is really the main focus. I can't believe we've dissolved into this conversation, but that's okay. So speaking of big kind of jumps, you were a guest on episode 97 back at the kind of October 2019 after Korn Ferry Tour Finals. Your official world golf rank was about 610. Now you're 33. We're talking just a little over 24 months, little over 2 years. You make this jump and all that's in between. Do you ever get a chance to even stop, sit, and, not go out and beat balls and just look back and say, holy shit, did I really do that?
Yes, but no. I think any competitor wants to constantly get better. And that's definitely me. I mean, now it's the end of this calendar year. I'm kind of able to sit back and reflect on it a little bit now. I mean, that's why I'm saying yes, but no, is because I think over the next couple of weeks, I'll kind of be able to process everything. It just went by so fast. I mean, even the last 2 years, I'm not even talking about just the past, 8 to 10 months where things have really taken off for me. It's more so of, just thinking back, and I know I've mentioned this a bunch, but it's like, thinking back to those 2 years ago where I'm possibly going to be playing some mini tour events and going to Canada Q school, and, Monday into a couple Corn Ferry events, and end up finishing second in Canada Q school, which I never went to Canada because I ended up getting Corn Ferry status. And then, it's just amazing how times change. And, but I think more so, I'm going to kind of done some reflecting, at least in terms of, just how wild the first really 10 weeks of this year was, because I played 7 weeks in a row, starting in California, finishing in Florida. And then everything, it was just a gentle progression, I guess, is how I'm going to go with it. Was going from, I made eagle in the last hole in San Diego to finish top 10 to get me into the next week. I ended up getting another sponsor's invite in there. I had like a couple more, so I made all 7 cuts in 7 weeks. And so top 10, like 17th, like 16th, something like that, and played terrible at Pebble. But those finishes were good enough for me to be top 50. So then that got me into the WGC event. Had a halfway decent finish there, and then I finished?
T22,
10th.
10th at Arnold Palmer. 22.
Yeah, finished 10th at Arnold Palmer, which gets me top 50 into players, and then play halfway decent there, which then gets me into the match play. And I'm now all of a sudden, after the match play, I'm locked into the Masters. So we go from possibly playing 1 or 2 events to, maybe 2 or 3 if I'm lucky in terms of sponsors invites, to you've just played 7 out of the last 9 weeks and you've worked your way into the top 50 in the world golf ranking, and you'll be playing in your first Masters. Where in reality, that was not even on remotely, in the picture 3 months prior.
So let me just stop you there to just kind of follow up on this. This is something that basically, because here back at the range, a lot of what we talk about are amateurs. So I'm going to take a lot of what you say during this episode and see if amateurs can relate to it. Let's just take, for example, that next summer, you're going to have elite amateurs trying to play tournaments that you've won, the Trans-Miss, the Pac Coast. They're going to be playing in this constant summer series that could potentially lead them into, playing in a USAM, or maybe in a Walker Cup year, making themselves attractive to get a pick to be on a Walker Cup team. You're obviously not, you're probably not going home at any time in those 7 weeks. You're constantly traveling. I'm guessing you're not, what is your approach in those 7 weeks? Do you look at the end of the tunnel saying, hey, I might be able to get into the Masters? Or do you just keep your head down? Do you remember even consciously thinking about your approach during that time?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. I mean, I'm very, I keep a journal so I can go back and see, ideas and thoughts and the, kind of the internal dialogue of what was going on at any given time. And, in reality, the Masters, all that really wasn't on my horizon. I was more so, I think it was just fun, because it's like I'm now playing against the best players in the world. And I think it really kind of hit me, I think, in that month and a half off from, that November to January it was like, man, you've accomplished your goal of being on the PGA Tour, and especially how I did it in terms of, finishing 6th in the Open and having a couple more top 10s and turning that into special temporary status and in essentially a 6-week span. I think it was just more so of just having a lot of fun and enjoying it and wanting to just get better at the game. I wasn't really thinking about winning tournaments or, doing well or, whatever, making X amount of dollars. Like, it really was just trying to get better.
Right.
And quite frankly, you know, that's something I've talked about a lot with my team. Was I was really forcing it later on in the year, when it came down to trying to make a Ryder Cup, that I was playing more golf than I should have. I was practicing way harder than I should have, and my body just broke down. You know, and it came to a peak at the British. And so, you know, for me, like when I think about the parallels of when I tried to make the 2015 Walker Cup team coming back from an appendectomy and trying to basically just play my way onto that team, it was not a good motivation is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And when I think back to that 7-week stretch, it was all about, hey, just get better at golf. And I know if I, you know, execute everything properly, like, yeah, I've got a chance to win. And it's the same thing. And, you know, the same mindset that I really had in 2015. And then after I missed in 2016 was, hey, just go get better at golf today. And, you know, go try to, you know, whatever you're working on, just try to find some improvements, and who cares what you shoot. And it's kind of hard because it's, you know, even some of the kids that I counsel in terms of, you know, their games, and then a couple of them are now in college. I tell them that the mini freakouts or the trying to accomplish something are where it just makes it, you know, the game we love unhealthy is honestly kind of a good thing and kind of a bad thing, you know, because I think that it's going to make you want to get better and you'll learn from it, but you'll also, you know, you're just not going to play as well. And forcing things just isn't the answer. And so, you know, I think back to 15 when I missed and tried to play in 6 or 7 events and, you know, tried to make a team. And then I struggled for a little while. And in 2016, that summer, I was like, hey, I just need to try to get better at golf. And, you know, I need to get better with my putting, get better with my wedges. You know, I got to drive the golf ball better and just take everything, you know, step by step. And I ended up winning the Trans-Miss and the Pac Coast really off of my worst college year that I had no signs of life at all, and came out that July and won those 2. And then actually I wasn't even qualified for the USAM. That's how far back I had fallen. And,
wow.
And I ended up shooting 63 the last round to get me into the USAM. So it's kind of funny how, I'm sorry, I know I'm going.
No, you're good, but it sounds like you're seeing parallel. You're seeing parallels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know I'm rambling on this, but I see a lot of parallels, especially, you know, over my last year, you know, to really kind of my 2014 amateur season, and even a little bit of my 2016 amateur season, where it's kind of like, hey, you know, you got to make the game fun. You got to work at it. You know, if you've made it this far, you obviously love it, and just make sure you don't lose the love. And I think for me, you know, I'm a golf junkie, where it's like, you know, we played the QB shootout this past week, and then I played golf yesterday. You know, it's like, dude, it's December. You don't have a tournament for 6 weeks. You're just coming back from your last event of the season, and the first thing you do is go play golf. Like, what's wrong with you?
Well, I mean,
but that's it. But that's just who I am. And so I think, if anything, you know, it's kind of funny just seeing the parallels of it all. Long story short.
No, and it's also just such a weird year. I mean, you end up winning Rookie of the Year for 21, and you start the year with no status. That hasn't happened in 20 years. Charles Howell III is the last person to do something like that. And I'm guessing too, like, even I know you said you're trying to make that Ryder Cup team, but, you know, you're not an official member of the PGA Tour. You're racking up points, but you can't benefit from the points unless you pull off a win. You know, you have your card wrapped up, but you're kind of, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking to myself, okay, you can kind of go into all these tournaments realizing that, okay, you know, I'm not going to reap the benefit unless I win. If I miss a cut, no big deal. Yeah, if I make a top 10, you know, pick up some other points, or, you know, pick up some cash, and it helps my career. But it's like you're in a unique situation where if I don't win, ultimately in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't change too much. So it's like going to a scramble. You know, 15 under isn't going to do it. You got to get to 24 under. So were you looking at the year at all as a, hey, go out and try and win and just, you know, throw everything against the wall and see what happens?
Yeah, totally. I mean, at the start, most definitely. You know, I think really in the middle of the year was when I was really trying to force things and overworked and, I think but definitely trying to be a part of that FedEx Cup, and obviously the mission is to go win a golf tournament, but there's a little bit of a lesson in that, if you work towards something where it's like work towards a rank or whatever, it's just not gonna, it just doesn't move the needle for you. I mean, we picked up golf clubs when we were little kids just because we love the game, and
right.
We played junior events because we like the competition, and if you're really into it, then you move on to the next level and then the next level, and it's like, hey, I mean, it's not like I'm sitting there thinking, hey, I need to be in top 25 in the world by the end of the month.
Right.
It's like hey, that's not healthy. But I was trying to really, I kind of had that attitude in the sense where it was like every week I was just trying to make myself a Ryder Cup member. Whereas before that, it was like, hey, if you go shoot 65 today, it kind of matters as, on a Saturday, or so really, like, if I shot any score, I guess, on the weekend, it was kind of like, well, if I didn't win, it didn't really matter.
Right.
So I think it was, I've learned a lot from this year, especially, but I think definitely the most important one is just, taking it step by step and not having to worry about, rank or, FedEx Cup rank or, this is BS. You should be a part of the FedEx Cup playoffs. I'm like, well, complaining about it's not really going to solve anything. So let's just have a good attitude and go enjoy it.
Well, and again,
I came close a lot, my
yeah.
goodness. I mean, so.
Well, it's also, I mean, not that you're not striving to win, but it's also nice to know, at least in my mind, hey, there are rules set up that's going to prevent this from happening. There's no need to fight the system. It is what it is. And still, it's a nice kind of a shoulder year to get you ready for this year. I don't know. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was looking at it. And then you mentioned Ryder Cup. Did you get a call from Captain Stricker?
So we had played a lot.
I mean, is it that close? Is that kind of what I was asking?
No, in the end, I was definitely not that close.
Okay.
The really big deciding factor of me not being close is just that I couldn't, all these guys were playing in the playoffs, and
yeah,
it's like Finau goes and wins, and he's got a spot locked up, and I just basically had to rely on the junk golf that I played the last 2 months of the season, and they
had more time to state their case, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I had played 9 holes with him and Phil, or with Steve Stricker, Phil, and Zach Johnson actually at the PGA this year. And actually, I'll tell you a really funny story about that later.
I like funny stories.
Yeah, we can get out of this deep rah talk that we've got going so far.
I'm sorry to bore you with your career, Will. That's bad staff work.
No, but we had talked a lot, kind of around the week of the PGA, and I just sent him a text after Wyndham where I just said, hey, we hadn't talked over the last couple months, and I know I'm not going to be a part of the team, but I just want to say thanks for being in the process, or allowing me to be a part of the process. They had me do all the fittings, and they sent out some emails, just amongst the guys that were possibly going to be on the team.
Right.
And so just knowing the inner workings, and I just said, like, hey, I just didn't want to be that guy where it's like, you don't hear from me ever again, so just want to say thanks for the opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And he actually called me. Yeah, no, I just honestly, I just didn't want to be that guy where it's, maybe he thinks I'm sour grapes or something,
I'm serious. That's a smart way to do it. That's the right thing to do.
Well, and so, he ended up calling me. He's just like, yeah, you're not going to make it. And I'm like, well, thank you. Yes, I'm well aware.
Really let you down easy, didn't he? Boy.
Any worse than I would have been saying I'm withdrawing my name from consideration, even though there's no consideration, right?
That's what I would have done. Actually, I said, listen, I got other things. Maybe in a couple of years, but I just, it's not going to work this time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you guys are going to win by 15, so you don't need me.
Josh, that's.
But yeah, no. So I kind of went through the whole process, and it was very cool. But That's a big goal of mine. The Walker Cup was my biggest goal, at least I had in terms of an amateur career.
Yeah.
I really wanted to win the U.S. Junior, which I got that. I really wanted the U.S. Am, which I only made it to the round of 16 twice. But making a Walker Cup team, just wanting to represent your country, there's just no better feeling. I mean, it's just, especially how, Robbie Zelznick and, all the guys there, they just take such good care of you throughout the week. And it's the off course stuff, the week leading up to it, that makes it even that much more special too. But yeah, it just getting that taste when I played that on that Walker Cup team, really made a lasting impression on me.
That's going to be a tough one for you because, and I don't mean it has anything to do with your skill level. I mean, you're right there. I'm just saying that's going to be a tough one for you because, I mean, you mentioned on the previous episode where like you got emotional and was kind of crying a little bit when you got that invite for the Walker Cup team in 17. That Ryder Cup thing is going to be just as difficult.
The beauty of this one, or at least of like the Ryder Cup, is that there's just so much history, and it's just, I mean, if you look up top 10 Ryder Cup moments, at least for me, I'll be looking at USA moments because I don't want to see any Euros, but
love it.
But it's just, Lanny Watkins, on 18 hitting the wedge. I mean, and him just, strutting his shoulders, there's all those, just, obviously think of Leonard on 17 at Brookline, and it just all these crazy cool memories that, that you just want to be a part of. So there's nothing like it. That's for sure.
Now, did you watch a lot of the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits? I mean, you got Scheffler and Morikawa. Those are 2017 teammates in the Walker Cup. And I mean, you played a lot of golf with Scheffler. I mean, that had to have been just seeing like, okay, I'm going to be a part of this. Like, oh my God. Because this is kind of when the U.S. flipped the script. I mean, we've been getting the shit kicked out of us. And now the team is not just points wise and winning, but the team is just so young now. I mean, Dustin Johnson is the old man on the team. I mean, yeah. I mean, this has really turned a corner.
Yeah. And, I really do think that, in terms of putting guys together, I think they've really started to figure out the art of it. Like Colin and DJ played together, which you would have I'm not saying that, some guys wouldn't have put them in there, but I mean, that's not your immediate go-to. You would probably think you'd go, all right, I got Cantlay, Schauffele, Jordan, JT.
Yep.
I put Brooks and Boogie together because they're Florida State guys. Maybe DJ and Brooks, or you could put DJ and Harris. Their games are a little bit more of the same, so you could think of them in terms of a four ball. I mean, there's so many like easy ones you can go with, but then it's like, yeah, Colin's going to play with DJ, and you're like, oh man, this actually makes perfect sense now. Mainly because, especially in alternate shot, they're playing the same equipment, so that helps with the ball.
100%.
But the fact that in four ball, you've got Colin, who would be more steady Eddie off the tee and give himself as many looks and kind of be old man par, and DJ can just send him out there and have wedges in, and hopefully he can make some birdies. And he made plenty of birdies, and Colin definitely made plenty of birdies, and their games matched up great in the foursome. So the talent is definitely incredible to see, but I think also the pairings were were really well done. So I think it's going to be a fun run, and I hope that, like I said, I want to be a part of that so badly.
Oh yeah. No, I think that's definitely in your future. Before you forget or I forget, because either both of us, it could happen. Let's hear the Phil story since we're talking about it. I mean, I don't want to miss this one. Holy shit, when he gets to be a captain. Oh my God.
Well, so I'll kind of give you the full story. Stricker ends up getting my number and says, hey, do you want to play 9 holes Monday of the PGA? Just to get to know each other a little bit. And I'm like, well, absolutely, would love to. He said, yeah, we'll grab Zach Johnson, and, the three of us will play. And I'm like, well, perfect. I mean, I know Zach, Zach and Steve are two of literally the nicest guys out there.
Yeah.
And Zach's always been crazy nice to me. Played with him in the U.S. Open earlier. I guess it was fall of 2019, I think, or no. Yeah, fall of 20. Yeah, I don't even remember. This whole super season year's really thrown me off. But
nuts.
So we end up going to get tested we're getting COVID tested, and Phil pulls in and, hey Cap, how you doing? And I'm like, oh, that's typical Phil. And, just loud. He's got the sunglasses on. And so Steve invites him to play golf with us. And so I'm kind of like sending a few texts to some guys of being like, how much cash do I need to bring today? I'm just like I'm game for it. Don't get me wrong. I just want to know what I'm getting myself into. And so needless to say, everyone just said, hey, just set the terms on the first hole and you guys will be fine. And I was just like, I just want to make sure, just because I didn't know.
Right. Well, you got to know who you're around and of course. Yeah.
And so it ends up being Zach and me taking on Phil and Steve. And so they called it the old guys versus the young guys. And Zach is the young guy at 44 years old.
Love it.
I think he's 43 or 44. But, we get off to the first hole and Phil hits it to like 30 feet, makes it. Okay, whatever. Second hole, he hits it in there to like a couple feet. Okay, no big deal. And then finally on 3, he hits it on the very front edge of the green and then makes like a 20-footer. And he's, doing his usual Phil peacocking, and he says it loud enough to where everyone in the crowd can hear it. And he goes, hey, Cap, we're 3-2-3. I mean, why are we more up by now? This is unbelievable. And just, of course, looking over at my caddy, like, here we go. It's starting. And so then finally they closed us out on 6. So Phil ended up birdieing 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9 in the 9 holes that we played. And, okay, you had a nice day. It's Monday. The pins are in the middle of the greens. Was I expecting him to win the PGA? Hell no. I mean, but he was playing some very nice golf. I mean, it was really evident. And so it's just kind of funny to see, looking back, playing with them. But the real kicker of that experience was we get on to 7 right after they closed us out. And, Phil's asking if we want to, kind of go double or nothing the last 3. And
of
Zach and I, after watching Phil birdie 1, 2, 3, 5, and I think Stricker birdied 4, so they were 5 under through 6.
Yeah, you're not stupid.
No, I'm like, you know what? Take our money and go away. Can't wait for this 9 holes to be over with.
Right.
And so I hit this just high bomb cut on 7 over the bunker, like 325 cover, and it just takes off. And Phil just says, God, I love your smooth speed. I mean, it's just, you got such great width, and it's just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of thinking,
mm-hmm.
and he goes, sorry, I just love to butter up people after I beat the shit out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thank you, Phil.
Fig jam.
Yeah, exactly.
See?
King Fig Jam.
Yep.
So that was, I've told that story to a bunch of my buddies, and they've always loved it. But I played a Phil in Detroit later on in the summer, and we had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. So, it's the thing that's so funny is it's Sunday of Detroit, we're both like in 60 millionth place and, teeing off first thing in the morning, and he's out there trying a new mini driver and, I'm going to, maybe put my driver in a new setting today. And, okay, maybe I'll try this arm lock putter just for hits, just for giggles. And it's just like, I mean, the guy's, 50, 51, and
right.
He just wants to get better, and he's the ultimate competitor. And, I've unfortunately I'm 0-1, and I'm very much looking forward to getting it back someday soon.
Well, I mean, there's not going to be any shortage of opportunities because he's going to play in PGA Tour events. He's going to go whip the shit out of the guys in the Champions Tour whenever he feels like it. I wonder, do you think it kind of chews at him that he won the PGA but didn't get on that Ryder Cup team?
I think he understood just because it's
I know. Oh, he didn't deserve a pick. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that he wasn't able to parlay the PGA championship, keep it kind of going to the point where they're like, yeah, he's the PGA champion. And yeah, I kind of was like, shit, that would have been a nice little cap to his career if he would have made that.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, especially because it's like I'm going out trying to have a nice little, intro to Steve and get to know him.
Oh, and he just bum rushes the entire thing.
Phil's like, hey, Steve's my partner today. And, I'm going to hold court for the entire day. And I'm like, all right, Steve, maybe I'll meet you another time. I look forward to playing golf with you today.
It's like when you have you meet someone meet a colleague at the bar and you want to really have a talk. And then someone recognizes that guy and like, oh, great to see you. And you're like, oh shit, I just became third wheel. And
yep. No, I love playing golf with Phil. I mean,
it's a show. It's got to be like, I mean, you've been around in your short career, you've played on the biggest stages, you've played in majors, but still that has to be just a very unique subset of like, okay, I'm getting to see something that I don't normally get to see, even though I'm a PGA Tour player.
Yeah, no, and I mean, even playing, a practice round with Phil the week he wins a major is kind of like, that was bucket list.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. I mean, you don't even have to wind him up to get him going for a story or anything. It's more like you got to can you just shut up a little bit because I'd like to actually play, or do you just forfeit your day just to see what you get out of him?
Put it this way, I felt bad for Zach because I was completely useless.
Okay,
but that being said, it was. You gotta try to knock the wind out of him. I mean, I feel like Gary Payton, in the Last Dance series when he's like, I got to keep hitting him and banging him, hitting him and banging him. He goes on, and MJ's like, I had no problem with the glove.
I know.
That's literally how I feel about Phil. Is I feel like Gary Payton, like, oh, you just gotta kind of knock him in there early, and it's like, nope, Phil's Phil. All it takes is one shot, and he's back in it.
Well, as much as I think we should talk about Phil more because he doesn't get a lot of publicity, we're going to pivot away from him and just kind of actually we'll get back to talking about you. Obviously, we could make an entire episode about talking about the Masters, but we're not going to do that. But, finishing runner-up, you're, again, non-member getting in really, in the top 50. And like you said earlier, you really were kind of hovering in that 43, 44 range. And the thing that I enjoyed so much about that week is, you play solid the entire week. You had that quote, if I'm stupid enough to think I can play here, I'm stupid enough to think I can win here, or dumb enough or whatever, but similar to that. Yeah. And I love watching the interviews because, I was kind of getting the impression that the media was like, okay, this is a really great story. This kind of, unknown, so to speak, from the Corn Ferry. Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah, he's a Walker Cupper. And how about, okay, good for him. But kind of felt like as you get into Thursday, as you get into Saturday, they're like, okay, cool story, but, he's probably going to shoot 78 tomorrow, and that'll be that, and he'll finish T12, and what an experience. Oh, just a really great, and all that shit. I remember distinctly thinking, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I don't know if he's going to win tomorrow, but I know he's not going to shoot 78. I was kind of thinking probably the worst he's going to shoot is even par, and you shoot 70. What were your thoughts going into the final round? Because you kind of knew where you stood. Again, you're kind of playing with house money, being the fact that, okay, if I don't win, I mean, obviously you want to be exempt for next year, but what were you thinking about with your legitimate expectations the following day for the final round?
Well, I think honestly, I was more nervous going into Saturday's round just because it's, I hadn't been in the final group of even any PGA Tour event. And, I know how to play under pressure, but
that's different.
I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. This is technically the most amount of pressure that I had ever felt. And, I got on the first tee and was like, hey, this is like riding a bike, but, you need to, enjoy this as much as you can. And I honestly hit the worst shot I had hit all week was my first tee shot on Friday, because I hit it I was hitting driver off of one or hitting 3-wood, basically 3-wood just short or driver over if we had the wind, and I was trying to drive it downwind and ended up hitting it so thin and so in the heel that it two-hopped into the bunker. And then caught the lip on the way out, had like 80 yards to back right pin, and hit it to like 15 feet and made it for par on the first hole. And that settled my nerves in completely.
Sure.
And I made a nice birdie on 3 and just kind of kept the momentum going. And really, when I knew I could handle playing in the final group and not realizing that it's the same thing, it's just, I try to treat every round like it's the same, but that one, just because it means so much to me, that I knew that I was going to have to make a conscious effort to try to make it just a regular day of golf. And Sunday, it just was basically all systems go. I mean, I was not going to leave anything behind in terms of effort or play with any reservations or, second guessing anything. It's like you put yourself in that situation, and I've worked that hard to get there that, why should I be, hesitant about, this club or that club? I mean, we need to be 110% today. And, if you're going to go down swinging, go down swinging. And,
right.
I think the part that was interesting was after I started off birdie on 1 and 2, I just, Hideki made bogey on 1. It's just, I just remember feeling so calm.
Right.
And I was like, dude, you're one shot back with 15 holes to go, 16 holes to go at the Masters, and you're calm. Like, just remember this moment and, realize that, when you get yourself here again, like, dude, you can do it, and, I honestly, I 3-putted 10 from like 50 feet from the back of the green, kind of whatever. It's such a tough putt, you can live with bogey. Then made a good par on 11. Then 12, I ended up making bogey. Hit a horrible shot in there, barely covered the water left, and chipped it up there to about 5 feet with about a foot of break in it, and just underread it, or just kind of didn't give it enough gas. And so really, when I made bogey on 12 and I was 6 back with 6 to play and in like 4th or 5th place, I thought I was out of it.
Right.
Like, I knew I needed to go crazy and make birdie, at least make birdie on 13. If I, birdie eagle on 15, and really just have to do something crazy just to even remotely have a chance. Cause we've seen plenty of guys make mistakes and plenty of guys make epic runs. And I ended up making par on 13. I played that hole in even par for the week, which really is the difference maker of me winning and losing.
Yeah.
And, almost hold my bunker shot on 15, made birdie on 17, and made a bomb on 18. And next thing you know, I see Hideki make double on 6 or 15. And then I'm like, this isn't over. And, then, hit a couple okay shots coming in, and, and then I basically, I was like, you know what, I need to go back and warm up just in case. I don't know what's going to happen here. And I think he made a really nice par on 17. I was like, he's got this in the bag, but it still was just, it was funny how most people think that, get down to the final 9 holes and it should be this like, just epic moment for, just this massive climax of emotion or whatever, or, and for me, it was almost like deflating. Just because it was like, oh man, I've been in contention this whole time, and now it's finally out of reach, and it's like we made it this far. And so it was just kind of funny how I'm like trying to get my emotions up Sunday on the back nine at the Masters, and I'm like, I don't think I'd ever be thinking this, but that's just the truth. I mean, it was honestly like a disappointment, and I really had to regroup when I got to 15. And just say like, hey, make birdie here, and then just go one shot at a time and see if we can get this thing to add up to. So
yeah, that kind of had to be a sick feeling watching him. Like, I think bogey 3 out of the last 4 holes, where you're like, oh man, like this. Yeah, it's so like 2 shots. I could find 2 shots in the last round or the last 2 days.
Well, I mean, my goodness, the Amen corner just the last day. I mean, bogeying 12 and parring 13. I mean, that's
there it is.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I did so much right to get myself in that situation that, I mean, I had made so many good par putts, so many, just nice saves that have just kept me in the golf tournament. That, the chip shot that I hit on 5 at the last day, I think Josh Gregory and I are still talking about it just because it was just so freaking good. I chipped it, or I hit my 4-iron. It like ran up the slope short of the green on 5 and then ran all the way back down, but it was straight on. So if I hit it with too much gas, it's going to jump up the hill. It'll go 40 feet by. If I miss it 6 feet right, it's going to run all the way back down to the front right part of the green. If I miss it 3 feet left, it's going to run 50 feet almost directly behind me. And so I hit the shot, checks up the hill, literally just barely rolls over and goes to like an inch. And I'm like, oh my God, that's
an all-timer.
And it's just like, it's a momentum builder for the round. But we had a long story short, after all that, we had a good celebration that night. So as much as, finishing second to me is almost kind of disappointing. Just because it's like, you try that hard and you come up just one shot short, but it's motivating as hell. But we made sure that we celebrated hard that night.
Well, that's good. You have to, that's for where you are in your career and how just getting into that Masters, it would have been so easy for anyone to be like, holy cow, I get to play in the Masters because I, got in on this top 50 and, hey, let's just enjoy it. And instead of you go in there and actually say, hey, I can compete. I can get myself in a position to potentially win this thing. And like I said, I was not just saying it because we're talking, but I was just watching the interviews after that Saturday round. And I'm like, they have no idea. Like he's going to contend for this tomorrow. He's not just going to hang something ugly and limp home and be like, all right, well, cool. I got to play in the Masters. I did not see that at all. So, and you get to come back. Obviously, you're coming back next year. Now, I feel that no episode is really a complete episode here without talking about Hagestad. I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. But he listens to this podcast, and he's one of your former Walker Cup teammates, and he has won another U.S. Mid-Amateur Championship. He's going to be at Augusta next year. That has to be exciting for you. Really. What else is going to make your experience that much greater to see Hagestad getting through the gates? Now, do you big time him if he comes to you asking for a practice round? Do you kind of say, hey, look, Phil, I got this thing with Phil. Do you do that, or do you say that, look, this game's a little bit out of your league, Hagestad, so why don't you? What do you have anything?
I big time him, or does he big time me?
Now,
I think that's the real question.
I was going the other way with this, but you can go take this question any way you want to. But you guys are going to have a little bit of fun, though, right?
Oh yeah, no, we'll. I guarantee you, we'll get a practice round in. So I gotta make sure Papa Stu is still Papa Stu. So
now you also mentioned a guy that I'm trying to get on the podcast here. Your manager of the Walker Cup team, Robbie Zalatoris. Now, I have been trying to get him for some time, and Hagestad doesn't think I'm going to be able to make that happen. Now, I think I can. It's going to take the right timing and maybe, a bottle of wine or some, giving up.
You're on the right track with that idea.
Okay. I'm probably going to need to give up some editorial control of the final product, but do you think I can make this happen, or do you think I'm reaching too much?
I would love to have Robbie on and you could even just give him, just say, hey, I want 20 minutes of the pranks that you pulled on people in the locker room at U.S. Opens and U.S. AMs, and give me your top 10 best pranks, because I would love to hear it.
But that's stuff that I don't know if I'm going to be able to get. I
think we could get it out of him, because I
like how you're saying we. See, I really enjoy that. See, maybe what I need to do is get a co-host. Maybe you could be a special. Maybe that's what we need to do.
I would happily be a special co-host just to hear Bobby Zalatoris give his top 10 pranks that he's pulled in the locker room, because he has gotten me so good over the last 2 years, especially. He is tied up my locker with rope. He has put the Happy Gilmore's caddy up there.
Yeah.
He put Owen Wilson's picture up there. He took the hinges off my door and Velcroed them.
Sorry. That's not funny. That's awful.
Well,
that's awful.
But he only Velcroed the top, so I would like pull the door open and it would be like I don't know, but he's had bag storage is available in the locker room sign, and then in parentheses, except you, Kevin Kisner.
I think I remember that one. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, but there's some that are just so deep and so good that, I mean, I would love to know them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is they're all PG, or they're all PC. I mean, like
right.
it's not like this is stuff that he needs to hold back because he's scared of like losing his job or something.
See,
I'm like, dude, they're awesome.
I know.
They're honestly awesome. Like seriously, like he could write a book on pranks.
Right. I'm not trying, I'm not trying to get him to share like the stuff. Like, there's stuff. And actually, when you were on the last episode, we talked about the celebration after you guys won. And look, if you're listening, figure it out. They're young guys between 19 and 24 or whatever age. Yes, they probably drank too much after they won the Walker Cup. Ooh, revelation, shocker. Put that aside. I want the fun, silly stuff like this. I don't want to know where the bodies are hidden. I don't care about that shit. That's not what I want. I want the fun, unique stuff like, hey, you've had your hand on all these Walker Cup teams. I want to hear about like the funny disaster stories of like clubs getting lost, or, which player just couldn't seem to figure out what clothes to wear and got the scripting wrong. That's the shit I want. I want the funny stuff that goes on behind the scenes, especially with Seminole, with that sort of with the stomach flu disaster, that thing. Oh my God. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna work on him, but I love the fact that you kept saying we. I think we found a new angle on this. This is good. He is. I mean, there's nobody like the guy. So maybe you'll just do the episode, and I'll just hit the record button and sit quietly in the corner. Maybe that's the way to do it.
Oh my God!
Unless you're busy playing on the PGA Tour.
Whatever. I would happily do it, but I love how that actually just kind of stressed me out, just because it's like, oh my God, I've got so many questions, and I know so many stories, and he's got so much dirt on me too, that I'm like, I got to be careful with what questions I ask.
Some of us have sponsors to be worried about, and I'm not one of them. So,
well, it's not even sponsors. It's just that he's got stories about me that if I start telling stories about him, he's got some serious ammo.
Okay. So. Well, we'll work on this. We will definitely explore this. Now, before I forget, I know we're kind of jumping around here, but you mentioned your journal. This is something that maybe in the last several years, if you're following, if you're following entrepreneurship, if you're following business classes, or if you're following anything on social media, a lot of people talk about the benefit of keeping a journal. So I did want to skip over that when you mentioned it. How long have you been keeping a journal, and what kind of, not obviously specifics, but what is the use case for it that has helped your career?
Yeah, I mean, so I've used it for probably 7 or 8 years. Okay. I've used it differently over the 7 or 8 years, and in reality it's just something that I use to try to convey kind of my mindset and thought process at any given time. Like the example I could give you is Mississippi in the second round this year in Jackson. I shot 61, and I knew I was going to play good that day, but it's not like I'm sitting there on the first tee saying, "Oh, I'm going to shoot 61." I just really felt good with where my game was at, and it's like, okay, why? What are the things that where am I getting that confidence from? Because the day before, I was kind of useless. I think I'd shot like even or 1 under, or maybe even 2 under at best, and was just kind of, kind of plotting it around, hitting it to 20, 30 feet, just making pars, maybe hit one to 10 feet, make birdie, and, just kind of nothing going. And, the day before that, I had shot like 6 over in the 9-hole practice or 9-hole pro-am. And I'm like, I don't really read into pro-ams, but I'm going,
that's a bad sign.
I haven't seen that before. Like, I mean, I've seen a few over before a tournament. I haven't seen like, where the hell's the club face? But, little things like, what are some things that I maybe saw that Thursday night that, or Thursday, after the round that I was like, hey, this actually feels kind of good. And then went out and went crazy. I mean, it could be anything from, general notes about, anything career related, could be just notes from, maybe a book I'm reading, even just quotes I hear, or, stuff that I hear from, maybe a podcast or something, maybe some guy mentions, some technique or product that they use. Like I'm big into, I was a psychology major at Wake Forest. And so I'm big into all that stuff. And, any, elite athlete, really needs to just keep asking questions. That's every single day. How do you get better? I mean, just ask better questions. And I think that it's been a good thing for me to, try in my own words in the moment, or, right after the moment, I guess, to try to get, where my head was at that Saturday, Sunday at Augusta. And, in reality, the other part too is, sometimes, the biggest thing that a lot of people talk about now is, having, gratitude, where it's like, if we ever, especially in college, I've told this to Coach Haas that I really was a pain in the ass when I was there. And I just thought I was really, really good. And then, I was good, but I just wasn't that good. And, I knew everything, just kind of a hothead. And in reality, it's like, I kind of told him, I was just like, hey, I know how big of a pain in the ass I was. And so, I just want to say thank you for, helping me become better. And it only took me a couple of years down the road for me to realize it. And, that's the thing that just makes him such a good coach, is that, he made me better. And, he always tried super hard to try to get me to have the right attitude. And, and I just did a bad job of doing it. And I think, just not appreciating every single moment, because that's the thing, especially when you're in college, is time flies. But man, when you're on a college golf team, it's just so much fun. I mean, you have no responsibility in terms of, besides playing golf and taking care of school. And besides that, you can do whatever you want to do. And, being able to enjoy that moment. And for me, I was so fixed on getting to the next level that I think I definitely could have enjoyed it more. Yeah. But, being able to sit down, put down some thoughts and kind of unload, it really helps, just because, this year I played 33 events this year. You throw in probably 3 weeks of miscellaneous travel, whether it's vacation or, sponsor stuff, sure, or just any sort of, something, you're not home. And then, throw in probably 2 weeks for, Christmas and the holidays, where you're kind of, you're out of your routine, you're with family, which is great. But when you're thinking of it in terms of peak performance, basically this year I'm down to having about 2.5 months just to myself. And so being able to decompress from the year and, fully understand, my time management, that's another big aspect to it. So you kind of asked me a question that obviously I'm very passionate about. That really has been the one constant that I've had really since my freshman year of college.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the other thing I was thinking about too with your year is, you started trying to basically lock up your full-time job. You're trying to lock up a PGA Tour card. You're trying to get out of the Corn Ferry Tour. You're trying to just put as you mentioned, Canada and Mondays and you're trying to get all of that in your past, in the rear view, trying to get yourself solidified. And then you have this crazy breakout year that's very unique. And then after the Masters, you become someone that, hey, there's companies that want to partner with you, and you can't avoid that. That's part of, Will Zalatoris Incorporated. And I was just kind of curious too, like you're mentioning being very present and, in your journal, but all these other things are coming onto your plate that you didn't have to maybe worry about the last 6 or 12 months. And how do you balance? You got to keep somewhat of an eye on that. I know you have a great team behind you, but they need to bring stuff to you because they need to have you engaged on it. How have you been able to balance that with, obviously you got to perform on the golf course. How have you kind of juggled that?
Well, and that's, you hit the nail on the head when I've got, the people around me that, basically everyone around me is just trying to help me be a better golfer. And because that takes, being a better golfer takes care of business deals. It takes care of, any other responsibilities you have out there, whether you're trying to get more corporate, money or whatever, your number one objective is to go play good golf. And, everyone has, been there for me. And, after being hurt and, really frustrated with how I ended the year, everyone just said, hey, you really need to appreciate this year and just, play with joy again. This isn't work, And so I think I didn't really notice that I was trying to make that Ryder Cup team or trying to win a golf tournament really until it was probably mid-June, early July. And when I got hurt and had to take some time off, and I was actually, if I didn't win, I was planning on going to Europe and playing during the FedEx Cup playoffs. But I just needed the time to recover. And when I came back those 2 weeks after, I just was kind of like, hey, you're out here playing on the PGA Tour. Just try to have some fun and enjoy this. And, let's kind of take a step back here. Remember 3-4 years ago when you're getting sponsors invites and you thought this was the coolest thing on earth? Like, it still is the coolest thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It still is, so, nothing's changed here. So, but like I said, everyone around me has been super supportive. And, like we were joking about earlier, there's been some life adjustments on my end. I would love to be superhero and say that, that this year definitely was easy, because it was definitely hard, but it was so much fun. And, just lifestyle changes. You go from, kind of general anonymity to all of a sudden, my engagement gets picked up in People magazine, and you're like, it's kind of like, Caitlin and I are looking at it like, who cares? We're nobodies, like, but it's still, it's just, it's just different. And
come on, she didn't like that at all. That didn't do anything. That didn't.
Well, no, it just was different. We go from, non-golf fans knowing us. See, it's one thing when, some golf fans know us to all of a sudden some non-golf fans even know who I am, because they're, screaming, walking down the parking lot the week after Augusta at a Target, and guy screaming Mr. Gilmore, I'm caddy, and I'm like,
I just knew where I was going. You get that?
No, but it's just like,
awesome.
These guys, but it's just kind of like, it was different.
Oh yeah. Well, you're probably going to get a lot more of that stuff. So, well, we have done a great catch up here. It's nice to know that the Back of the Range Mojo has the ability to drive someone from 6'10" all the way to 33 in the official world golf rankings. I feel that most of that credit goes to you, but I'm going to take some of it. So, enjoy the holidays. Enjoy some downtime. I know that's really tough for you.
You too, buddy.
Yeah, I know it's going to be hard for you to enjoy some downtime, but enjoy yourself, and all great things to you and the family in 22. And we'll do it again soon. I'm glad you stopped by the Back of the Range, Will.
Always, man. Really appreciate it.
And there you have it. Special thanks to Will Zalatoris for joining me on this episode here at the Back of the Range. Don't forget, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Every single episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. Thanks for a great 2021, and we'll see you again in 2022 here at the Back of the Range.